Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Water Trio Astrology podcast. I'm Kelly Surtees, and I'm here with my friends Alicia, Yusuf, and I always stumble over your name, Leash. I'm sorry.
Just say Alicia Yusuf. It's
Alicia
all good.
Yusuf, that's going to make it easier. And Cassandra Tyndall, lovely in white today, Cass.
Yeah, got my Jupiter on.
Got your Jupiter on. I've got my Venus on. I'm wearing like a green, although you can't actually tell. And Leishy, are you in black or navy?
I'm in black.
Black. So you've got your Saturn on. I love it.
Yes.
So that's a random extra, color coding by the planets. And we are here to talk about the first week of the new year, 2019. I cannot believe that we're here already.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, December 31st to January 6th is the time frame we are going to cover this week. So we've got to talk about New Year's Eve, what what the astrology says if you're a celebrator and you can stay up past 10 o'clock at night.
And you don't have kids.
If you don't have kids, we can't even blame it on kids. Our kids now stay up much later than we do. There's a lot more astrological activity this week, so there's a lot for us to cover, and of course we'll just each pick our favorite kind of thing for the week and go for it. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I'll do that, shall I? Why not?
Go for it, Cass.
Okay, Mars and Aries.
Bring it on.
Yeah. When we're talking about planets moving from Pisces into Aries, I find is the most prominent, dynamic, and significant shift there is in astrology. And particularly when we're talking about Mars, who now last year has had a massive stumbling blocks he's had to overcome.
Yeah.
With the retrogrades through Saturn signs. And then, Mars in Pisces has been a wonderful shift, but I don't know, at least for me personally, and through, talking to people, massive, massive overwhelm combined with the Jupiter side of things, the Sag side of things, Mercury retrograde, all of that. So there was a compounded effect. But from a temperament perspective, it's like now Mars is getting dried out. He's getting clear. He's getting focused. The mojo is on. And he's in his ruling sign to kick the year off. So we've got 6 weeks of Mars doing his best Mars. So in my gym, the last couple of weeks, it's been really quiet. So everyone's been doing Mars in Pisces probably and only training their biceps, wine glass to lips kind of thing. So that's my take anyway. And even some of my friends that I chat to at the gym are like, gee, it's really quiet. I'm like, the astrologer inside of me goes, this is going to be a massive new year, new me. And everybody is going to be going from zero to hero thanks to Mars in Aries. So he does have a couple of stumbling blocks along the way. It hits up against Saturn, Pluto, and this and that and the other. But who Mars is and what he's trying to do is on course, on par. So whatever your goals are moving forward, I think there is some really nice rocket fuel to at least get them started and to get some really great progress, not only in this week, of course, but up until about February 14. And just because I've done, my whole annual horoscope project, I know this is a subject for the, weeks to come, but Mars will also go out with a bang, conjoining Uranus before he then moves into Taurus. So that's going to be, as I said, it's future down the track, but Mars has got some real rocket fuel under him with that last co-presence with Uranus that he will have in Aries in any of our lifetimes. So that's got some, nice energy after this sort of discombobulation and overwhelm that the last 6 weeks have brought. So I've rambled on enough about that. I hope that's made it clear how excited I am for this because I'm in a Mars perfection year, so I expect to get a lot done. So over to you girls.
I love it, Cass. Tell us more, Leash.
Well, being Miss Aries here in the corner, just got a few things in Aries. I would say, yes, I'm excited about it. And also I'm a little bit hesitant about it because Mars in Aries is go, go, go. And it's almost like the Energizer Bunny, for those Australians that know about that ad where the Energizer Bunny just goes and goes, and it can make us stop to, we don't stop until we drop, basically. So it's that kind of energy where you just have to be careful how far you're pushing yourself and how much energy you're putting into things. There's also can be a little bit of self-focus around Aries. Some people like to say selfish. I prefer to say self-focus. So it's just making sure as well that you're not putting too much into the me against the we. It's definitely an important time to be looking after yourself, what you want, what you need, and what you desire. But I would say the flip side of that is just making sure you're doing that with thoughtfulness of other people's needs into that equation too. So I do love that Aries vibe, and not just that, Aries is Mars's fire sign. So there is that fire in the belly that we can get and just go for things. And I always compare Aries, and my clients will know this, I say it all the time, to Tigger, who's always, bouncing along ahead, so exciting and enthusiastic about life. And then he turns around and goes, oh, where is everyone? Come on, hurry up. So there is that energy about it that will be really nice to get into. And I guess he'll be doing some nice Jupiterian trine stuff there, as we go on in the weeks, and we'll talk more about this. So there will be some cool, optimistic, confident fun with that. But yeah, I think we just have to be careful of that, being too much me and not enough we.
And that's the thing too, Leash, with the good point about the Mars trining Jupiter and Sag. It brings me back to something that we refer to a lot amongst the three of us, and that you've said, the buffet of crazy.
Yeah.
I talked about the Mars and Pisces overwhelm, but there is a potential for the continuation of that into this week at least, and into Mars's ingress, where it could also be in Mars on steroids in some respects, where it is a real go, go, go. Then that dip into Taurus could be quite a thud. What are your thoughts, Kel?
Yeah, many thoughts, because I'm quite excited about this. I like that we're back into regular Mars rhythm, where we've got Mars in a sign for 6 weeks. It's enough to get something done, long enough to get a little bit annoyed, and then you're on to the next thing. Because Mars, Mars is stimulating, Mars is activating, but Mars can also be irritating and sort of cause flare-ups. So the trick with Mars is to use enough to get motivated to get things done without using so much that you actually, as you're sort of alluding to, Leash, that you kind of piss people off or you put people offside. Yeah. I do think it's lovely that Mars is coming home to the first sign of the zodiac for the start of the new year. I think there's going to be a lot of, weekend warriors hitting the gym, Cass, as you're talking about. We are all coming out of the gate of the new year feeling very enthusiastic and very motivated. And I think the first week of January, Mars is moving pretty freely through Aries. He's not quite into the Saturn situation yet. And so, the Saturn in Capricorn is sort of tempering, but I think that we want to honor the enthusiasm. Mars in Aries is about taking action. It's about being bold, and really it's about decisiveness, the power of choosing. Choose this, choose that. I think of Yoda, do or do not do. There is no try. So it's very much get it done or move on to the next thing. So I'm really excited for it. There's some tempering energies in this week, and the longer trend of Mars in Aries is going to be tempered at different points. Yeah. But as you said, Cass, the idea of Mars drying out, Mars has been in Pisces for the last 6 weeks, which is, there's a lovely fluid feeling to that, but there's also the scattered quality. Mars in Aries, it's a very strong cardinal placement. It's goal-oriented. It's about setting targets and just powering away till you get them done. There might be some burnout, to your points, Leash, for sure. And then I think I know for me, I always really enjoy sort of Mars in a fire sign because it really gets me going. And maybe I am a bit exhausted by the end of it, but I've usually got a lot done. So at that point, I'm happy to have a break. So yeah, I'm excited. And I think everybody's going to notice the shift. December 31st in Canada and the States, January 1st in Australia, you will feel the fire pick up. Now, you might be annoyed, you might be short-tempered, you might be getting pissed off a bit more easily, or you might just be fired up and able to kind of tackle a bunch of stuff in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one thing about Aries, Mars in Aries in particular reminds me of, what someone said to me recently who has more of their fair share of Aries, not you, Alicia, but, he said, I've always, whatever challenge has been put in front of me in my life, I've always rose up to meet it. And I think that's a really nice way to face 2019 is basically head on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me, the image I'm getting is the young warrior who's ready for battle and probably hasn't ever been battle tested before, but is just his enthusiasm, he's throwing himself in to fight for what he believes in and following his passion. So it's kind of cool that if we can have our goals in place for the year ahead, to have this real push forward to get done what we wanted to get done.
It's an interesting analogy you've used just there, Alicia, because that describes exactly the show I've started watching over the last couple of nights. So like a young warrior kind of, thrown into the Colosseum. So watching all those older shows as I do. Oh, I guess maybe it's a bit of a, we're talking Mars, right? I'm in a Mars perfection year. So I just had this sort of thirst for watching like blood and guts on TV. So I'm watching, what's it called? I watched it a little bit way back in the day when it came out, but then I just discontinued it for some reason. Spartacus of Blood and Sand. So it's intense. So it's all part of my Neptune square too. It's just I'm just loving my chill out time in front of the box with my Shiraz and my blood and guts on TV, and that's how I'm coping with it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. So Mars in Aries is definitely a signature event for this week.
Totally.
But we've also had our eye on the eclipse that's happening this week, which is a new event, a new cycle of eclipses. First eclipse in Capricorn. We're going to have eclipses in Capricorn and Cancer over the next 18 months. It's coming up this weekend. I think it'll be Sunday the 6th in Australia, Saturday the 5th in Canada in the States. 15 Capricorn, I think.
15.
Yeah.
15.
What are your thoughts on this, gals?
Well, so many.
I love it. I mean,
you go, Cass.
How long have you got?
Yeah, well, maybe not that long, Miss Gemini rising. Because this is the tempering energy, isn't it? Like we've talked about this lovely fiery Mars in Aries, which is great, but in contrast and in addition, we've got this very Saturnian eclipse coming through.
Yeah, and this is like, I was actually over the last couple of days, a really dear astro friend of mine, way back from the day, we got sort of started messaging, and he reminded me of something that I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about with the whole Saturn and Cap, Jupiter and Sag paradigm, is that by Antisha, they're actually conjoined. So that's, I guess, a bit of a segue. But in terms of this eclipse, I don't want to seem like a doom kind of like, like I'm prophesizing doom. But I do feel that there's a foreboding or a foreshadowing feel about this eclipse. And, while I think in the modern day and in the way we modernize the interpretation of eclipses, we sort of got the North Node is that kind of essence of pushing forward or where life can open up. But the South Node has kind of got this, releasing, cleansing, draining feel to it. But I don't know, there's something about these eclipses that sort of ring true to the more traditional interpretations of eclipses, where they weren't things to look forward to. They weren't things to really place your bets on. They were kind of, stay under cover and batten down the hatches. And with everything that's coming up in the sign of Capricorn over the next 18 months, there may be perhaps that preview or window of insight or that feeling in the belly where there's some area of your life where you have to batten down the hatches a little bit. There might be a warning or a trigger or something, and the Jupiter and Sag piece might be going, oh, yeah, it'll be all right. She'll be right, mate. Don't worry. Like, it's all good. But then there's that other piece that's like, that little other voice on, those cartoons where you have like the good guy, bad guy. And then there's the bad guy going kind of, pointing the finger at you going, yeah, well, if you want to have the Jupiter good stuff, you got to deal with the Saturn work first.
Yes.
So I feel that there's that little bit, you know, if you want the, you know, it's like we all want the six packs, right? But you can't be doing, you know, what you've been doing. So there's this sense of, yeah, I guess you get my gist there, is that just be mindful of the month of January, I guess, as a bit of an umbrella, the little signs or warnings that perhaps you would not necessarily pay attention to, and just maybe put those there in, again, Saturn, the longer term cycle. You know, if that means if you're saving $100 a week, see if you can up it to $125 a week, whatever it is, just pulling out round figures just from my, you know, out of thin air. So whatever it is that your long-term goal is, here's me doing my Jupiter conjoin the ascendant, right? Whatever your long-term goal is, I think double down on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. It's a this eclipse to me is a warning. It's not, that's my take, that's my thing. Particularly if you do have those cardinal planets around 15 degrees. How about you, Kel?
Yeah, look, I do think there is more of a somber, sobering energy in this eclipse. It's in the sign of Capricorn. It is ruled by Saturn, which is also in Capricorn. And the degrees are that the sun and moon will be conjunct at 15 Capricorn. Saturn is right next door to them at 11 Capricorn. And it is a south node eclipse. And we also have Pluto in the mix. So we kind of have Saturn, Pluto, and the south node involved. It does feel like there's a purging or a releasing kind of required. And, you know, that's partly, it's a south node eclipse. It tends to trigger more endings or letting go. It can help you shift your perspective off sort of the limits of the material world and onto more of maybe a spiritual kind of perspective. Because in the Vedic traditions in astrology, the south node is known as a spiritualizing influence. It tends to bring more of, I describe it with clients, it's like a shift in perspective where you're really tapping into that sort of higher purpose. Sometimes it triggers this almost Buddhist non-attachment, maybe minimalist type energy, where we're wanting to purge our world. We want to get rid of physical stuff. You know, Marie Kondo's Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up would be a great book to spend reading and implementing this weekend. And I think there's a real contrast of energies too, because usually a new moon is a time to set intentions and think about moving forward. But because it's an eclipse on the south node, there is this weird energy, the tug of heart between you want to move forward, but what do you need to let go of to get where you want to go? And I think we're sort of coming at it, Cass, maybe from the same perspective where it's like these are it's not as simple as just powering forward. There's a little bit of depth or something that needs to be tapped into first. Yeah,
it's almost sort of like, you know, when you're talking about the spirituality and stuff like that too, what sometimes people, especially in the more, I guess, sort of new age or the modern zeitgeist of spirituality, there's a lack of discipline. And discipline is a massive part of being spiritual. And discipline is also a massive part of achieving our goals and desires in life. So, you know, one of my favorite sayings of, you know, anything that is associated with discipline and goal setting is it's no matter what the goal is or what your outcome is, there's always an element of having to sacrifice something you want now for what you want most. And this eclipse may shine that light or give you that feeling or insight around what it is you may kind of think isn't making a big deal to the long-term outcome, but it actually is, and that's what you need to be giving up or sacrificing or releasing or letting go of.
Yeah, Leash, what are your thoughts on this eclipse? Because I do think this is really one of the featured events of the start of the year.
Yeah, and I think it's really going to lend a lot to the whole year, to be honest. And I have to agree with everything both of you have said. I feel like it's going to be a bit of a tightrope, and it's going to offer an interesting balancing point to all this Jupiter and Sag. You know, I agree with what you were saying, Cass, about the modern zeitgeist of spirituality, and it's almost like it's, you know, you can't just wish for it, you've got to work for it. You can't just want to manifest things and then sit at home on your couch and wait for it to come and knock on the door, because it ain't going to happen. So this is that energy where you can actually really get down to basics. And I think that's the other thing too these days is things have become really complex, and they're overly overly complex for no reason. It's like really coming back to, what do you want? What is the basic points of what you want? And what direction do you want to go in with this? And take all that amazing but yet crazy feeling ideas and inspirations that we all got with Jupiter and Sag in December, and then move it into, actually, okay, this is what I can do and this is what I can't do. Be realistic with it. Be pragmatic with it. And work out what you can do, because otherwise you're going to be out on that limb that Jupiter can take you out on sometimes, and not being able to actually climb back to the main branch of the tree. And I think as well with the spiritual piece, what I always thought about, which, the teacher that we all studied under taught us all, was that Capricorn's the mystical sea goat. I always remember the way she used to talk about this and the mysticism that comes with this. And it is a very spiritual sign in and of itself. And, adding that South Node piece in there too, I feel like we really can kneel at the knees of the master to learn some stuff from this eclipse, and to just be open and ready for whatever it may throw at us. I don't know if I agree with the foreboding as much. I do think there will be some warnings with it, but this is the Saros series that this is a part of, this eclipse, is actually being concerned with unusual groups, or groups that are around to do with healing or a love of humanity or trying to make a better world. So I feel in a way that there may be a pull to connect with groups that are like-minded, in which we can play a big part. So if that's an opportunity that turns up on your door, grab it, but do it realistically and be willing to follow through with the hard work. This eclipse is about those seeds that you sow. If you put the seeds in place and take care of them, water them, fertilize them, check on them, even sing music to them if you want to, they'll really grow. And there's a lot of growth that can come out of this. So I feel like, the Saturn and Jupiter piece together actually can really build something beautiful. But yeah, it's got to be realistic.
Yeah, and I think this is really one of the main themes for this week, separate to or in addition to the Mars in Aries vibe, is this Saturnian feeling of responsibility, diligence. I always think with Saturn, there's no free lunches. You get what you've worked for. You get what you've put effort into. So to your point, Leash, to what you're saying, and also what you've been saying, Cass, I love what you said, Cass, what you might have to give up something that you want now to get what you want most. And that's a beautiful point. I mean, I always think with Saturn of the idea of short-term pain for long-term gain, because, Saturn is really shifting us out of that immediacy of I want this now, whatever this happens to be, into how are we planning for the future? How are we doing, with Saturn, I always think 7 years, think 14 years, think 21 years. Where do you want to be at those points? And how are your actions today giving you a gift 7 years from now, or creating a problem for you?
Yeah.
So when I look at the concepts of goal setting, discipline, and alike, Mars and Saturn really do work well together. And when I'm teaching, that's kind of how I describe it. So Mars is more like the daily disciplines or the daily actions that lead you into that longer term goal. So, whether your goal is to save money, means there has to be a little bit of a daily discipline. You don't buy that coffee, or you don't do that spontaneous catch up with somebody. You do the things that are planned or in the systems or in the structure. And what's that guy on Instagram you pointed us to recently?
Oh,
yeah.
Ramit.
Ramit.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's awesome. And so he said something on social media the other day. losers have goals, winners have systems.
Yes.
And so I think the whole Mars-Saturn piece working together in a square might also produce enough friction to work out, this is the direction I'm going, but is that in alignment with the longer term plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis what's the word? Is it congruent to what you want it?
I love it, all these big grown-up words.
It must have been that extra coffee I had. So, that, is what am I doing on my day-to-day round in alignment with that longer-term plan. And that eclipse just might sort of bring some realizations around that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, Leash, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, because we do have the Sun conjoined Saturn earlier this week too, on the 2nd of January. So it just feels like this week is really about, okay, we've had all the fun, we've
Party's
done that.
over.
Yeah, and it's back to work. And for many of us, I think, not some of us, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, that will be, the day back to work.
I've got clients. I'm back at work on the 2nd.
Yeah, me too.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a reality, isn't it? And I think one of the other things with the Sun conjunct Saturn and then this eclipse, which is also in Capricorn, connected to Saturn, these are also clues or signposts around the longer Saturn in Capricorn journey for each of us. So that longer trend of Saturn in Cap, which was 2018, it's all of 2019, and it's a good part of 2020. So it's an opportunity to see how you're tracking with some of these longer Saturn in Capricorn goals. Leash, I kind of just jumped in and talked over you there. Sorry. What was the rest of your point? I was just so excited. Sorry.
No, just that it's highlighting this. And look, it's one of the things as well, the misnomers I feel like in astrology, like Saturn is, people are scared of it. Oh my God, my Saturn return. No.
Yeah.
But as I like to point out, Saturn is our skeleton. If we didn't have a skeleton, we'd be a blob of jelly on the floor.
Correct.
Not able to do anything or be anywhere. So we have to have the structure in life. And I think in many ways it's something that our culture, our society is scared of, is the pain, is the hard work. And I guess in a way, I think the next couple of years are really going to be about embracing that energy, embracing maturity, embracing the wisdom. I see so many posts about people now, saying 50 is the new 50 rather than trying to be 50 is the new 30. It's like, you don't want to try to be younger than you are, because I love the power that being in my 40s has given me. I'm much more open and aware and empowered than I was when I was 30. So I say, bring on this Saturn energy, bring on the confidence and the maturity that comes with it. That was my just little Saturn.
I love it, because it is very Saturnian. I think it's going to trigger maybe aging issues for people. I know when I talk with clients about Saturn transits, if you're having a personal Saturn transit, there's often this feeling of time's running out, or I've missed the boat on something. And what I often say is, Saturn is not trying to put this fear in you to judge you. It's trying to sort of prompt you into being more thoughtful about prioritizing what it is you're actually doing, why you're doing it, and to get you out of that, easily distracted, I'm just doing this because it's right in front of my face, versus what are those larger trends that you actually want to be proud of achieving. And this week is a little bit of a call to reconnect with that. So the somber, serious kind of tone, I think, is there as well, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it also just can highlight the impossibility of reaping and sowing in the same season. It just doesn't happen. And I find particularly too, with some of the, particularly the more younger generations, they're used to an instant gratification type of way of living. Growing up with the internet, everything's instant. And, I often find myself saying to, people in their 20s for consultations, like, you are not old.
Yes.
Trust me, you are not old. Like, I'm 41 and I don't even feel old.
Yeah.
So, and that is also the whole, you can't reap and sow in the same season. Things take time. And that's what Saturn is here to remind us, that it is about taking that time and staying on the long term and the daily disciplines and the compounded interest of that.
Honestly, compound interest, the seventh or the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something then, Cass, what you were speaking, and then I started talking and it went straight out of my head.
Something about compounded interest and your Venus
It was just before the compound interest. It was the planning and preparation that when you said you can't reap and sow in the same season, it made me think of another almost like cliche Saturnian soundbite, which is plan your work and then work your plan. And the idea, you can't reap and sow in the same season. You do need a plan. First of all, before you jump into the doing, set out, what am I going to do? When am I going to do it? Is this practical? Is this manageable? Just take that time to do the preparation. When I go to Pilates, and I had an absolutely amazing Pilates session today, so I feel like, I can take on the world. But, we're getting into the plank or doing some crazy maneuver. And my Pilates instructor always says, set yourself up for success. Check your hand position, check your shoulder position, check your chest or your bum,
Switch on your core.
Yeah, well, we won't even start the maneuver until we've done 30 seconds of checking that we are in the right position using the right muscles. And then we get into the exercise, which means we're going to do it properly. We're going to get the best benefits and the nice, skinny waist or whatever. But the same in life is that, you've got to set yourself up for success. Before you take off, take the time to check that you are adequately prepared for what you're trying to do.
Yep. The same theory applies to a 100-kilo squat.
Yes. Yeah, Cass, I cannot even top you. I mean, it's
the same principle. It's just different.
And yoga positions, ballet, so many things. Yeah.
Well, I die doing yoga, but I can throw a bit of weight around. It's all relative.
Well, and we've talked about this before. I think, was it Mars placements that is like your workout preference?
Yes.
I always think of your Mars in Taurus, Cass, which is like that heft.
Heavier the better.
And my Mars in Aquarius is like, oh God, no. Like that's too.
And all my Mars in and Scorpio wants to do is dance, be all watery.
The water. I need to do all the breath stuff. Like if it doesn't have a breathing component, forget about it. And also it's got to engage my head. Otherwise I'm like bored. So the Pilates is so hard because, the core is like, my God, is it anyway. Yeah. We could talk about that all day. So announcements. What do we need to announce?
Talking about time. Yes, it's that time. We need to announce
a very special event.
Yes.
Mark your diaries right now.
Yes, January 30th in Sydney, Water Trio live. So you can pop onto Eventbrite to book your tickets to come and see us in Crow's Nest in Sydney, starting at 7:30 p.m. Is that right, girls?
Yes.
Going through until 9 o'clock. And we'd love to see you. We're going to be talking about 2019 and the energy ahead, and this will be following through from much of what we talked about on today's episode. Book your tickets now. There is an early bird price of $30. So if you go on and book that now, you can grab that early bird price, and we can't wait to meet some of you in person.
Yeah,
can't wait to see you gals in person. Really,
I know that's going to be great. But we will also, I'm just thinking, like, we're going to talk about 2019 year ahead because we want to debrief that for everyone, give you all the tips you need. But if you get us talking about the best weight sort of exercise for your sign, we can also share our secret weight loss cycles according to the moon and things like that. There's just so much that we've shared with astrology together over the years, so we're looking forward to bringing some of those highlights.
Mars will be in Aries then, so we can help you with that goal setting. I think
Mars,
and we love a tangent. Yeah. We've never gone off on tangents before, have we?
Oh, gosh.
Nah.
And we did, actually, the live event has the Sag moon, which we did.
Yes.
I think we did that intentionally, I think.
Yes. Although I have to say, girls, I think we've been pretty disciplined in our podcast to date.
Honestly.
This probably marks about maybe like the 7th or 8th episode, maybe the 9th now.
I don't think it's the 10th, really actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There goes. We haven't really been counting it, have we? But yeah, we've really stayed, like, I'm really quite proud of us and how we have actually managed to stay pretty well on track.
We have. Once we put the timer on, we're good.
Yeah.
So talking about timers and time and Saturn, I think it's time to wrap up and say goodbye. Is there any last things we need to say or do?
Just thinking about the date. I'll be in Seattle January 12th if anybody wants to come to the workshop there. Otherwise, looking forward to seeing people in Sydney in person.
Cool. And I have a workshop for those that haven't booked coming up this Saturday. So come along. Love to see you there. Pop onto futurefrequency.com to see it.
Cass?
Yeah, and I'll be in Canberra from somewhere between the mid... I haven't booked my flights yet.
Planning with Mercury.
Yeah, I'll be in Canberra, our nation's capital. Woohoo, lucky me. So I'm going to be there in the second half of January, so somewhere between the 15th onwards, I suppose. And so if you happen to be in Canberra, I'd love to catch up for a coffee or a consultation. That'd be awesome.
Excellent. Cool. What's your website, Cass?
My name, CassandraTyndall.com.
Alicia's at futurefrequency.com.au, and you can find me at kellysastrology.com. Have a great week and a great start to the year, and we will see you all again next week.
Yay, bye.
Happy 2019. Bye.